Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Fast X. And we're up to number 10 in the Fast and Furious franchise, and we have Louis Leterrier, who comes in to direct this 10th film, and this tells the story of Dom Toretto, who must face off against the vengeful son of drug kingpin Hernan Reyes from Fast 5. And the whole opening sequence of this film is basically just redoing Fast 5, except with some cut-in scenes with Jason Momoa as his son Dante. And Dante's coming after Dom and trying to break up his family and torture and kill his family to cause as much pain as possible to Dom along the way. And this story is the most ridiculous 2 hours and 20 minutes of my whole entire life. This movie was insane and just absolutely ridiculous. Every scene that Vin Diesel's in feels so overly, obnoxiously, and horribly over-serious. There's a ton of just awkward interjections where I felt like this was trying to be a faith-based movie out of nowhere and just didn't feel true. And then there's these moments where it's trying to be tender and like sweet, but also moments where it's trying to be very emotional and like this heavy, serious film where it just comes off melodramatic and silly and ridiculous that I was laughing at the screen. And there's one particular moment towards the end of the film where there's supposed to be this big emotional moment that was so, how it was all framed and shot and everything was so silly and absurd that I was laughing instead of like feeling the emotion of the scene. There's just so many characters and storylines going on in this film. They bring back everybody, and I mean everybody. And there's certain people that are back where you're just like, you gotta be kidding me at this point. Eye-rolling ridiculous, and introducing all these new characters who are all related to somebody. You know, Jason Momoa is related to a former Fast 5 villain. You have Brie Larson, who's in this now too, who plays Kurt Russell, Mr. Nobody, his daughter. You have one character who turns out to be the sister of a really famous other character from the franchise, and Rita Moreno is Dom Toretto's grandmother, and just all of, like, there's so many people just related to everybody. One of the big highlights of the film is Jason Momoa is having a blast. He is ridiculous, over the top, and absurd, and like an insane amount of fun in this film. Vin Diesel is not good, and a wet blanket that just ruins almost every single scene that he's in, and just brings down the whole entire tone of the movie. And you have the likes of like Therese Gibson and Ludacris, who are just silly and ridiculous in their own ways, and luckily Natalie Emmanuel's there to help those elements. You have just so many moving pieces. Luckily, Jacob John Cena's character actually has a personality this time. Cypher's back, and Deckard Shaw's back, and like so many of these characters are back, and the film really struggles trying to balance all these characters. The action set pieces, some of them are a little bit more grounded and you see more practical effects, but overall it just keeps escalating to absolutely absurdity, to the point where you're just like eye-rolling at how ridiculous this all is. And there's so much CGI and just insanity. All the way up into the end of this, where it's just like, there's no resolution for this movie. It's like, be prepared. You're going to have to wait a while to get the next one that actually continues and maybe doesn't even finish the story, because apparently we're getting a 3-part finale now, according to Vin Diesel. This film is fun and absurd in the way that it probably should be, like 75% of the time, and then Vin Diesel shows up and tries to turn it into a completely different movie that just does not work. He does not have the acting chops or anything, and the direction is not there to make it work. A lot of the handheld fighting, there's some cool moments, but a lot of it's over-edited. There's just so much CGI and ridiculousness. At least there's a lot more like car racing in this and stuff like that, which kind of brings it back a little bit to its roots. It's just an insane thrill ride for 2 hours and 20 minutes that never stops, and hasn't stopped because it's continuing into the next film, and everybody's related to everybody. all these storylines are really hard to balance all of them, and these random cameos and small roles and characters returning. It all just comes together to make one giant messy ride that it's undeniably a fun time most of the time. The dialogue, not great. Actually pretty bad most of the time. But this film is exactly what you expect it to be at this point, and at least it could boast that. And it was better than the last one. But those are my thoughts on Fast 10. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.